Hello, everyone. Welcome to Verbling. Howdy. I'm Teacher Oakley, and for the next hour, we're going to be looking at the future perfect tense. Yesterday, we spent some time looking at present and past perfect. Today, we're going to look at future perfect tense, and then in the hour following this hour here at Verbling, we're going to practice by having a discussion about the future and making some predictions about the future. So first, we're going to, in this class, we're going to look at how to form. There are actually two forms of the future perfect tense, as well as the uses, and we, well, you, the students, will be practicing forming sentences with a future perfect tense related to each of the uses, the ways, and the conditions in which we actually use the future perfect tense. So, let me get started by showing you how the future perfect tense is formed. I'm going to just do a screen share here. Okay. Now, future perfect tense has two forms. Will have done and be going to have done. Okay, the most important thing here, unlike simple future forms, future perfect forms are pretty much completely interchangeable. Simple future forms, will and the verb, or be going to and the verb, have slightly different meanings. We can use either one to make a prediction. However, if you use the going to version, it indicates that this is a future plan as opposed to just a prediction. No such problems with the future perfect. Hello, Nader. How are you?
Hi, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well. Okay, we're looking at the future perfect, so I'm gonna just continue here, looking at how.
Sorry, do you frequently use that future perfect in your speech?
No. Frequently, no, but not never either.
Is it common? Do you hear it regularly or something?
Well, you know, it's common where, of course, the conditions would be met, such as if you're in a business meeting and you're discussing future sales projections or, you know, something, you're discussing a project that has deadlines. That's the key. If you're talking about anything that has deadlines or should be done by a certain time in the future, will have to be done, then of course it's very normal, and of course you would hear it a lot during such a meeting. But of course in daily speech we don't really talk about deadlines all that much, really.
I see. Thank you.
Practically. So when you need it, you need it. When you don't, you don't. Okay.
Okay.
All right, there's two different forms for this construction, this verb tense. Okay, we have future perfect with will, and then have, always will have, and the past participle. Notice it will and have, unlike the present perfect where we sometimes use have or sometimes use has, depending on verb conjugation, depending if it's I, he, she, it, they. No such problem here with the future perfect. Will have in the past participle of the verb. Again, past participles for regular verbs, fairly simple. It's the same as the past tense version, which is it just has ed at the end. Walk, walked, and then the past participle is walked. Again, it gets much more tricky, of course, with irregular verbs, and you basically just have to learn them. Okay, buy, bought, bought, for example. So it can be different. Okay, examples of how that works in just a statement, a sentence. You, the subject, subject noun, will have perfected. There's the verb construction. Your English, the object noun with a pronoun, possessive pronoun. Okay, the rest, of course, we're going to add extra information with prepositional phrases by the time you come back from the U.S. All right, naming another time in the future. More about that later. In the question form, as always, we transpose, we reverse position of the subject noun and the first auxiliary. This particular future perfect in this form has two auxiliaries, will and have. So you switch in a question. Actually, you always switch the subject noun and the first auxiliary. All right, will you have perfected your English by the time you come back from the U.S.? Fine. And the negative, you will not have perfected your English by the time you come back from the U.S. Notice position of not, okay, after the first auxiliary. Obviously, in spoken English, in these examples, for example, the first one, it would be common to contract this. You'll have perfected. Or in the last one here, when you have a choice, okay, you will could be contracted, or will not can be contracted to won't. It's more common to contract the not form, the negative. All right, you won't have perfected your English. All right, but that's not all, folks. There's another version of the future perfect, and that is the be going to have. All right, here we do have to consider how we're conjugating the first verb to be. I am, he is, they are. Plus the entire construction, always, this part is always the same, going to have, and then the past participle. Clearly, this is quite wordy. Obviously, there's a lot to this. There's 5 words, obviously. Okay, but again, you can use the will form or the going to form, whichever you're more comfortable with. Taking a quick look at examples, same idea. Subject noun, the entire verb construction, and then the object noun. You are going to have perfected your English by the time you come back from the U.S. Again, I know, I keep saying it. There's absolutely no difference between this sentence and the one we looked at previously. You will have perfected your English by the time you come back from the U.S. Okay, again, in the question form, first auxiliary and subject noun are transposed, swapped, switched. Are you going to have perfected your English by the time you come back from the U.S.? Okay, and then with not, just because we don't have enough words in this verb construction. By the way, this whole big mess here in bold print, this is the verb. If you're considering analyzing or dissecting this sentence, you are not going to have perfected your English by the time you come back from the U.S. Again, I can say you're not going to have perfected. I can say you aren't going to have perfected. Really, it doesn't matter. There's no rule there. just generally speaking, it's more common to conjugate than not. But it doesn't matter. Again, that doesn't make any difference if you want, not conjugate, I'm sorry, contract. If you want to contract your, if that's easier or more comfortable for you, or you want to contract aren't, really doesn't matter. Also, just by the way, it's very common to reduce form in going to. You aren't gonna have perfected your English. Gonna have. Okay. But that really has nothing to do with the verb form. Okay, well, I've said that over and over again. Okay, let's look at some of the uses. Before we get into that, let me say hello to Max. Hi, Max.
Good morning, Teacher Oakley. Hello, Nadir.
You're right. It is still morning.
Yeah.
I got up very early today.
Nadir, it's very morning. It's for
6 a.m. here.
Yeah.
Okay. It's very early in the morning. How we should say
early. Okay.
Okay. Or you can. Sometimes we say it's very early morning where you are. But okay, that's possible too. Sometimes we use that sort of shortened version. And hello, Milton. Welcome, welcome. Hi, Milton. Hello. I can see you've unmuted yourself, but unfortunately, I cannot hear you, Milton.
I can hear me? You can hear
now
me?
I can. Now I can. Now I can. Yes, indeed.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm good too. Thanks for asking.
Okay. Well, welcome to the class. All right, gentlemen, we're going to look at the uses, and then you guys are all going to give it a practice shot to form your own sentences after I explain the use, and we look at examples that you can use as a model. Okay, use one, completed action before something in the future. So kind of similar to the past perfect, where we use the similar but different. Strangely, it is a little bit different. In the past perfect, we use the past perfect for the thing in the furthest in the past. Okay, you're talking about, you use past perfect, you're talking about two past actions or a past action and a specific time, which is closer to now than the past action. We use past perfect. Here, something will occur before another action in the past, or another action or a specific time. So in other words, looking at this little diagram here, the future perfect is indicated by the purple circle. All right, that's something that will occur before another action, which is the purple X. Or perhaps the purple X may represent a specific time in the future. Okay, so that's the idea. Let's see what we mean by looking at examples. Okay, by next November, we have a little nifty little time phrase here. Okay, next November is in the future. I will have received my promotion. Okay, by next November, next November is the X in our diagram. And your promotion, his promotion, somebody's promotion is the purple circle here. Okay, so before the big X, I will have a purple circle. All right. Okay. All right. By the time he gets home, she is going to have cleaned the entire house. All right. So this would indicate to me that she'll be finished. Again, what we're doing here is we're predicting in the action. We'll predict. We don't know. No one can tell the future, so these are predictions. I will have received my promotion. She's going to have cleaned the entire house. We don't know. Perhaps there'll be an earthquake. The house will be destroyed, and she will never have finished cleaning it. Okay. Keep an eye on these other verbs in our time in the other clauses, in our little purple X clauses. Talk about that in a minute. I am not going to have finished this test by 3 o'clock. Okay. Notice also our time clause when we're giving a time. We have it in the beginning with a comma, or we can stick it over here on the end without a comma at the end of the sentence if our purple X is indicated by a time phrase. That's okay. No problem there. It's up to the speaker or the writer where he would like to put that time clause. It makes no difference. All right, question form. Will she have learned enough Chinese to communicate before she moves to Beijing? Notice use of the connective before here instead of by. Okay, this is also common. Sam is probably going to have completed the proposal by the time he leaves this afternoon. It is very common when using the future perfect to use words like probably, maybe, possibly. All right, it's very normal because you're making a prediction, so it's very normal to use modifying adverbs like this. Very common. Okay, by the time he leaves this afternoon. Okay, by the time I finish this course, I will have taken 10 tests. All right, same thing. Now this is an action. Finish the course. How many countries are you going to have visited by the time you turn 50? Okay, another by phrase. Now, notice that all of the reference points, we can call them, when I finish, when you turn 50, by the time he leaves tomorrow, she moves to Beijing. When we have a verb as the reference point in the future, that our future perfect action is going to happen before, they are all, of course, in the simple present tense rather than simple future. Here's the thing. This is because interruptions are in time clauses, and you cannot ever, never use future tenses in time clauses. Just cannot do it. Okay, so you can't use a future tense here. This is a common mistake to think you can use by the time I will finish this course, I will have taken 10 tests. This is a common mistake. Can't do it. All right, you cannot use a future tense in a time clause. It's just not possible. Okay, using the examples that we have looked at, let's give this a try. Nader, you ready?
But yes, by the time I reach the purple X, I will have passed the purple circle.
Okay. By the time I reach the purple X, okay,
I will have passed. I will have passed. I will have passed.
I will have passed
the purple circle.
Purple circle. All right. Analyzing the diagram there. Yeah, okay. That's exactly correct. Literally, figuratively, emotionally, just any old way we think about it. Okay. Very good. All right, thank you. Thank you. Max. Okay.
Okay. I wish I will have understood this tense by the end of the class.
Oh, very good. I'll have verb tense, but I know what you mean. By the end of the class. Here we have it. Okay. All right. By the time I reach, we have a verb, present tense. Great. We have an action. In Max's example, by the end of the class. Okay, we have a time clause. And all right. Perfect. Great. I have an example of each. An actual time reference point and a future action reference point. Milton, get back in the plane. Okay. All right. Well, Milton has gotten impatient and jumped out of the plane. So let's continue. Okay. Use number 2. All right, Max. Well, and Nader. Here's where it gets a wee bit tricky. We can also use it to show duration before something in the future for those pesky non-continuous verbs. Okay, what are we talking about? Well, in English, we have verbs which we call non-continuous verbs. We're not allowed, grammatically, to use these verbs or action words in the continuous tense. In other words, in the verb with the verb to be and the ing form. So, examples might be, for example, verbs that show your feeling or emotion, like, love, hate. I cannot say, grammatically, supposedly, I cannot say I am hating you or I was hating her for many years. Okay, just can't do it, so I have to default. I can say I hated her for many years, okay, and I can't say I'm hating you, I hate you. Okay, I'm not allowed to use a continuous form. So in that case, I wouldn't be able to use the continuous, or even if that's not complicated enough, also we have many verbs which are mixed verbs, such as the verb to be and the verb have. Okay, I cannot say I am having a headache, but I can say I have $20. Okay, I can say I have a headache. I can't say I am having a headache. It's mixed. However, I can say I am having a party next Saturday. So depends on the usage. When we have this problem with a mixed verb which can't be used, or a non-continuous verb, we may need to use future perfect to show that something will continue up until that interrupting action in the future. So it doesn't matter when the action started here in the diagram. Okay, it starts now or any time in the past. It will continue until boop, the purple X. Okay, let's look at examples here. All right, I will have been. The verb to be is a mixed verb. I will have been in London for 6 months by the time I leave. All right, the purple X, you leave. That's a kind of a one-time action. That's the purple X. We don't know when he started to be in London. Actually, we don't even know if he hasn't started yet. We don't really know. It's not expressed, but he's expressing the green line here. He will have been in London for 6 months. Okay. We do this to show duration. Normally, of course, we use continuous verbs to show duration or to emphasize duration in a long period of time. I can't really say I will have been being in London. Actually, that would be future perfect continuous. Okay. Yeah, I will be being in London for 6 months. No, okay. Can't do it. We just can't do it, so we have to use future perfect. Okay, another example, by Monday, time clause. Susan is going to have had my book for a week. Okay. All right, so Monday is the purple X. Is going to have had. All right, we're using future perfect. We can't say is going to have been having. Is going to have been having. Well, yep, just can't do it. Doesn't make sense. Sounds really weird to me as a native speaker. Susan is going to have had my book for a week. Okay. This is tougher. Also, please note, there's another weird exception here that you must be aware of. Although the above use of future perfect is normally limited to non-continuous or mixed verbs, these particular verbs, live, work, teach, and study, are sometimes used in this way even though they are not non-continuous verbs. They are not defined as non-continuous verbs. However, they are often used with the future perfect to show duration. These four verbs, by the way, not only in the future but also in the past perfect tense, they have the same quality. All right. Actually, they can be used in perfect tenses in past, present, and future to show duration. And there really are no rules. It's whatever the speaker or the author is more comfortable with, feels like doing. So I very frequently, well, not frequently, but often when I'm teaching perfect tenses, we run into an example sentence with one of these words, and I hear, teacher, teacher, why? Well, because these are weird exceptions, that's why. Okay, so, gentlemen, using perhaps one of these exception words, or to be, or have, or another non-continuous like, love, hate, want. I am wanting a Coca-Cola. I can't say that either. I want a Coca-Cola. Okay, any of those verbs, go ahead and try to form a sentence. Okay, Nader, go ahead, I guess.
By next year, I will have studied. By next year, I will have studied English for 10 years.
Okay, other than my misspelling, I think that's perfectly okay. I will have studied English. Okay, and equally, of course, all right, just so you all can see it.
I'm going to
Yes.
have studied.
Well, I do. Just want to point out that you could have. This is the weird exception, so it doesn't matter. You can use it continuous, or you can use it perfect. I will have been studying English for 10 years is equally valid. It is not a problem. Okay, so both of these sentences are correct, in other words. So you can use either one you want to show duration. Or yeah, you're right. You can say by next year, I am going to have studied English for 10 years as well.
And I can say I am going to have been studying English.
I'm going to have been studying. Yes, you can. So you have, in other words, because there are two future perfect forms and you can either use perfect or continuous, you have 4 different ways to say exactly the same thing.
So for the first case, when someone tells the deadline for this project is like Monday 3 p.m. So I say by your deadline, I will have finished your project.
Yep. Yeah, that would be fine.
Yes, when he says, is that okay with you? I can say, yes, this is fine with me. By your deadline, I will have finished your project.
I see nothing, or I hear nothing wrong with that sentence. That makes perfect sense. Of course, you're saying by your deadline, you're referencing a time that is known by both of you, so that's okay. That's perfectly okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Max.
Something like next and again year, by next January.
That's fine.
I will lived in this house for 10 years.
I will
Live.
come again. Are you sure?
No, I have lived.
Thank you. I thought so. Okay. I will have lived in this house for 10 years. Okay. I will have lived in this house. All right. Okay, you're using one of the
And
crazy
again,
verbs.
I will have been living in this house for 10 years.
Are
It's-
equally
it's
valid.
again, yeah.
That is right. Okay, so those are fun little buggers there.
Yes. With by, I have to use this future perfect.
Always? Is that your question?
Yes. When I see by, I use future perfect.
Oh boy, you're asking me to do some intense thinking here. Wait a minute. Well, of course not. I mean, if you're making a past, you can make a past tense time clause, with by. By last January, I had finished I had finished the project. Okay, so obviously there I'm using past perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
That sounds weird to me.
Really? By last January, I had finished the project. Yeah, sounds perfectly normal to me.
Yes. I'm sure it's correct. I'm telling you, it sounds weird to me. I didn't hear it before. That's all.
Okay.
So in future, when I see by, I have to use future perfect.
Well, no. Again, it could be it's a future clause and indicating a future time, like a deadline. Then yes, if it could be you could be talking about a time in the past. All right. So I will call you by 5 o'clock. All right.
Then it's simple future.
All right. That's simple future. I can do that as well. I will call you by 5 o'clock. I will have called you by 5 o'clock. What do we? Okay. Well, let me write that down and let's talk about that for a minute. What is the difference?
Yes. I was going to ask that question.
Right.
Not the, yes. When you started your class, what is the difference between I will say in simple future and this one?
Well, let's talk about it. Let's write them out so we can look at them. Okay. I will call you by 5 o'clock. Basically, you're predicting I will call you sometime before. I will have called you before I'll be done. It's it's pretty much the same. You're indicating that when you use future perfect, you're indicating that that action will be over. So by 5 o'clock, ding, 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 when the bell rings 5 times, that call will be over and finished before then. If you say I will call you by 5 o'clock, maybe you'll call at 4:59. Maybe you'll call right at 5 o'clock. So there's a slight difference in meaning. Very slight. But notice in all our other examples earlier, the action in the future perfect is done. It is totally finished. I will have received my promotion. She's going to have cleaned the house. That action is done when the reference or action, when the purple X happens, that action is finished. So when we use, in our example, I'll call you by 5 o'clock, that call will not necessarily be done at 5 o'clock. Slight difference, I know, subtle.
So
Which is why,
when you, yes, what I understand that I will have called you by 5 o'clock. I may call you at 3, 2, but by 5, I'm sure. Be sure that I will have called you. But here, when someone tells you, I will call you by 5 o'clock, so you expect him to call at 5 or 4:50 or something, or you expect him that he can call anytime before 5?
anytime before 5, but it will definitely be finished before 5. Which is why in the very beginning of the class, you were asking me, is this commonly used? And I tried to express to you that it's commonly used.
Sorry, I'm talking about the first one.
Yeah.
I will call by 5.
Oh, it means the phone will ring sometime 5 o'clock exactly or earlier.
Yes,
Yeah.
around 5.
Around 5. You may not be done by 5. So that's why I was explaining we use future perfect tense for deadlines, especially when things absolutely must be done by a specific date in the future. Okay.
So if someone tells you, I will come to you by 5 o'clock, so you don't expect him to come at 2 or 3.
I don't know when he's coming. I know he'll be there sometime. Yeah. Usually, I would normally I would expect him like 5 o'clock, really.
Okay. That's what I mean. But if he told you, I will have come to you by 5 o'clock, so he can come anytime before 5.
Well, also you're dealing with the preposition. I will call you at 5 o'clock. It would indicate, specifically, exactly 5 o'clock. By 5 o'clock means sometime before, but it's non-specific. Okay? All right. Which is why we can use future simple for many things, and we don't really need future perfect, unless it's important that we understand the whole deadline issue. Some things, the idea we're using future perfect to indicate something will be done by this time. It's like a promise. It's like a prediction and a promise. Kind of, which is why we don't really need to commonly use it, because hopefully we don't need to make that many promises. But that's why I was saying it's more common in business, for example.
Yes, I totally agree that your client may want to hear that future perfect.
Yeah, precisely, exactly.
Yes.
So that's exactly it. Okay, remembering. All right, review, but okay. This is a little bit confusing. I said it already, like all future forms, not just future perfect continuous, future simple. None of the future forms can be used in clauses, okay, phrases, half sentences, beginning with time expressions such as when, while, before, after, by the time, as soon as, if, That's important. Unless, so if, okay, if you're making a conditional sentence, you can never have a future tense in your if clause. Same with unless. Instead of future perfect, present perfect is used sometimes. Again, if you're using a conditional sentence, depends on what condition you're using. So it just can't be future. It may be present. It may be past. It may be present perfect, depending on what style of conditional you're using. Okay, but you just, no matter what, the negative is always true. You can never use a future tense in a time clause that explains a specific time.
Yes, but we used it before with future tense.
What? When?
Didn't we use before with future tense in one of these examples?
No, it was in the other clause. There's two. All of these clauses that we're looking at, you have to have two clauses using future perfect tense and past perfect too. What was it? Before, we used before somewhere. Where was it?
Yes.
In one of our examples.
Well,
yeah,
in that one, will she have learned?
Yeah, enough Chinese to communicate before she moves to Beijing. So in this clause that begins with before.
I see. I thought we cannot use before with that with future perfect. We cannot use the future perfect in the same sentence with before. In the same
same clause. That's it.
Yes. Yes.
In this clause. That's it. No. It's very common to use by the time.
Yeah, and by the time, yes. That was it. Right. So I was confused. So we can use all of these expressions with future perfect.
Sure, but right, the future perfect will be in the other clause. Okay.
So with if we can use it in the other clause.
Oh, that's good. Now that's a whole nother ball of wax. That's a whole nother can of worms you're opening there. It depends, because if clauses start, if and unless both start conditional clauses. So, for example, if it rains, present tense, I will stay at home. I will stay. That's a future tense. I'm not using a future clause in the if clause. I'm using present tense. If I were president, I would pass a law. Again, I would is still a future form, but I'm using past tense because it's the unreal conditional. If I make the third conditional, okay. If I had known that,
yes.
Yeah, if I had known that, I would have decided differently. Okay, that's future in the past, but okay. So now I'm using, in the if clause, I'm using past perfect. But in no case am I using a future tense in the if clause.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I say if someone else, regarding if someone else brought that book, I would have taken it. That's it.
So if someone had brought that book, I would have taken it.
No. I guess I'm talking about that third case of if. Forget this future simple. If someone else brought the book, I would have taken it.
If someone had brought the book, I would
No. Without had, I have to use had.
In that phrase, yeah.
Yes. So to that it didn't happen. Something in the past, but it didn't happen.
That's right.
Okay.
That is correct. Yeah.
This is so weird for me as a Russian because we use future tense in both.
Yes, I've noticed. Not just you, Max, but I've noticed working with Russians before that this is a frequent mistake that they make. Yes, and I knew that was true. Yeah, absolutely. Um, right, so you have to be careful of this. So here's another example. I am going to see a movie when I will have finished my homework. You can't do it. This is using the simple future am going to and the verb. Just can't do it. So instead, I could rephrase it like this. Simple future, I'm going to see a movie when, here's the bugaboo here, the time clause, beginner, when, subordinator, is what it is, when I have finished my homework. Okay, present perfect. When I have finished, you notice, really, when you think about this, I'm going to see a movie. Okay, all right, when I have finished my homework. So what's happening first here, really? Really, you're going to finish your homework first, right? Then you're going to the movies. All right, so they're both future events, but the first one, the one where normally the first one is what we use future perfect for, but I can't.
So the opposite of past perfect.
Sorry?
It is the opposite of past perfect rule.
Well,
because in past perfect we use past perfect for the older one. This one we use.
Right.
It is almost the same. No, it is almost the same because we use the future perfect for the older future action.
Yeah, that's right. It gets confusing if you consider present as middle ground. Is the past perfect is at one end, but the future perfect is not at the other end. It's closer to the present. So yeah, it's more in the past, and that gets mind-boggling. Of course, the future perfect is more in the past. What? Yeah, I understand what you're saying, though. Yes. So I'm just going to shut up because obviously you get it. Adverb placement, I don't really like to concern myself with this too much because different adverbs will do different things. These time adverbs, always, only, never, ever, still, just, okay, we're normally going to place them after the first auxiliary. You will only have learned a few words. Because it's going to change meaning if I move this around. Only you will have learned a few words. Well, that's totally different than you will only have learned a few words. You will have learned a few words only. Okay, also possible, but it changes meaning. If you want it, what they're showing you here is if you wanted to act on the verb. Okay. Same thing here. You are after the first auxiliary. You are only going to have learned a few words. All right, and these seem to be sort of slightly incomplete, right? Because we don't have a where's the interrupting action or time. Not very good examples, actually. You're only going to have learned a few words when the course ends. Okay. That would be better. These are very unclear, I have to admit. All right. Now, let's look at active and passive forms. All right. Active sentence, of course, the subject noun does the action. They is the subject noun, will have completed. The verb construction, the project, object noun. So they do the project. Okay. And then our time clause, before the deadline. Well, my goodness, there it is. We can, if we don't care really who does the project, it doesn't matter Perhaps it just doesn't matter at all. Perhaps it's completely obvious due to the content and the context of what you're talking about. Either way, in a passive sentence, the subject, the action happens to the subject. The project will have been completed is the form. The only thing different is we've added the verb to be been here. Will have been completed before the deadline. All right. That's it. Before the deadline here, okay, we still have the time clause. We don't know who's actually doing the project, but it doesn't really matter. All right. Just the same here, they are going to have completed the project before the deadline. Active, the project is going to have been completed before the deadline. Why would you choose will or going to? Well, I really don't know. I have no idea. Is going to have been completed, will have been completed. Really, they say the same thing, and it really makes no difference whatsoever. Just to make it more confusing for you, the English learner, I suppose. All right, let's give this a whirl. Let's give it a try. Let's see if we can make a passive form. Let me squeeze it in here so we can see the example as we're doing it. Max, I'm going to make you try this first.
Okay, this lesson will have been completed in 10 minutes.
This lesson will have been completed in 10 minutes. Ah, okay. Very good. Notice the in 10 minutes. We got a different kind of time clause here, and that works, actually. Will have been completed. Yeah. Okay.
And another way to say that this lesson will have been done in 10 minutes, yeah? It's always... It's also correct or not?
Well, it's a little weird. Let's look at it. Let me try see if I can explain and alter it around for you and show you how you may do this. Very good. Will have been done. Okay. Will have been completed in 10 minutes. Okay. It's literally. I mean, grammatically, it's okay, but it's strange because we normally reserve this verb for when we do this. This lesson will have been done for 10 minutes by 12:10. Something like that. So it sounds incomplete when we just say this lesson will have been done in 10 minutes. Will have been done. It sounds incomplete. Just totally does not sound right to me.
I think you'd say this lesson will have been finished in 10 minutes. No?
No, finished or done. Will have been finished. Will have been finished in 10 minutes. No, I think we would just say this lesson will be finished in 10 minutes. Or this lesson will be done in 10 minutes. Okay? Very subtle difference in the meaning of the verb. Okay, that's really why it sounds weird to me. All right? That's actually why. Why would I need to say this would be more like a, why would I need, I would more commonly you just use this in a simple future passive. This lesson will be done in 10 minutes. This lesson will be finished in 10 minutes. Will have been completed. To complete something means the whole thing is not just wham, one-time action done, wham, one-time action finished. If something is completed, the project is completed. That to complete something has more of an element of continuous duration of something that took time to do. If something is done, that is like stop. That's it. The action, the verb stop, it does not mean any kind of continual duration. It's an instantaneous action. Done. Finished. Stop. Okay, that's the problem. That's why it sounds so weird. So why would you say this ongoing lesson, all right, just the element of this has been happening for a time, will be finished, will be completed in 10 minutes. That I understand. The whole lesson, which takes a duration. It's a little weird to say the lesson which takes time will be done. It just sounds strange. There's no need to make it future perfect because future simple. Okay. It's not really a deadline.
Thank you.
It's hard to explain. It doesn't seem right. And again, you're trying to use future perfect to indicate a deadline, not just when something will end. Because that goes back to what we were talking before with the I will call by 5 o'clock or I will call at 5 o'clock. It's not really. This lesson will be done in 10 minutes. This lesson must be done in 10 minutes. I don't know. Okay, Nader, you want to try to use a future perfect form?
Yes, this don't worry. This tense will be understood by the will have been understood. Don't worry. This tense will have been understood by the end of this class.
That's a heck of a promise there. That's a big promise. Okay, this tense will have been understood by the end of this class. Okay, well, yeah, that's fine. That's a fine example of future perfect passive. Okay. All right. Okay. Any other questions about this? We got like a minute left.
If we are talking about a project or a file, can we say please find attach the finished file and the completed file? This is the same.
Please find.
Please find attached the completed file or the finished file.
Please find attached the completed file. Please find attached the finished file. I guess either one is okay, but I will tell you that I have written completed file. I don't think I have ever in my life written the finished file. I have finished the file.
Because I hear thank you for your finished work.
Okay, I guess it's fine.
But more common completed.
Maybe that's just my personal preference. I don't think there's any difference. I think it's personal preference. So I think I'm just giving you my personal bias when I write business letters.
At least, I'm sure that the completed one is correct.
Well, I'm sure it does. I really seriously don't think it matters at all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, that will about wrap it up. Screen share function thing here. Ooh, strange. Yep, they did something else to the Hangout, at least from my end. Always something new. Anyway, thank you. Thank you very much. Time for me to go as I have another class here on Verbling coming up. Thank you. See you next